I got her. She's 7 minutes. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
You probably put her like in between.
Yeah, we'll see. We're gonna wait. That second hour is pretty packed.
Yeah.
We are on alert for Raider coaching hire, so everything we have planned is fluid because things can change. Mike McCarthy's out in Dallas. Mike Tomlin trade rumors. God, that guy hasn't won a playoff game in a while. Hell of a coach. But in this country and more so in Europe with soccer, they judge you by what you did in the playoffs. That's it. Getting to the playoffs is important, believe me. Giants, Raiders, everyone wants to get to the playoffs. Just get there is really important. But if you don't win a playoff game, if you don't win one, you didn't get a playoff win, and that's pretty rough. And the Chargers and Denver are out. That is good news for us in the AFC West. Now we need Kansas City to take a bow. And I mean, bow out, and that would be kind of good. That would be like the last thing maybe we want to see here. Oh, yeah. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Anybody do anything great? Good ski. Man, I'm always skiing this time of year, trying to get skiing going, and I'm kind of dropping the ball. I got to get that going in my life.
I think Comp's going to Breckenridge in a couple of weeks.
Who is?
Comp.
Oh, yeah.
They do the yearly thing. Do the Breckenridge one.
It's always nice when a radio station has money to go on a ski trip. I like that. For the listeners. Yep. We got wild card games to get to. Yeah, Denver losing. Denver was in that game at halftime. I was getting a little bit nervous there. Baltimore and Buffalo is basically, that's what I'm going to be talking about most of the week is Baltimore, Buffalo. Wow, what a game that is. Yeah, I don't know who the Raiders are hiring, and neither do you, and neither does anybody. So for everybody asking what's the Raiders going to do, nobody knows. Nobody knows. We know that Pete Carroll's in the building today. I can confirm Pete Carroll is in the building. And if Pete, when Syracuse Raider says any news on the Pete Carroll interview, like what would that question mean to me? Any news? Like I'm not in the room. They're not going to announce anything. No one's going to know. So there is no news. He's interviewing today. That's all we know. Got to understand, we want all this information. We're not going to get any of it. We can speculate, though, and that's kind of fun. You know, Bobby, I describe it as, you're the high school quarterback or you're the king of the prom and you want to invite the hot girl to the prom with you, and she turns you down. And then you go, wait a second. The other hot chick, she's already going with my buddy, Tommy, and her best friend, the hottest other chick in school's going with my buddy, Ricky. I don't have a date to the prom. That's what happens this time of year. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you find the ugly step one and take her there and have some fun.
Let's be said for ugly girls. Big or small, we love them all. Listen, that's fun. Here we go. To the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off and react for over 20 years.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio. Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years. And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, JT back here to kick off another week of radio. We happen to be on a bunch of different platforms, Raider Nation Radio, the Raiders mobile app. I'm on my YouTube channel. There's only a few people in here today, Bobby. Maybe they don't think anybody's getting fired. People want to come to me and watch my body language, and coaches and GMs are getting fired. But today is a quiet day. I can confirm Pete Carroll is in the building. Pete Carroll is over in Henderson, and he's at Raiders headquarters, and that's an encouraging sign because you got to have people in the building if you want them to be your coach, if you want to interview them and have them slotted to be the head coach. And that's one of the things I'll be talking about here in the monologue, brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town. And I got great news for you tonight. All their taverns are on high alert because they got a playoff game tonight. So you can go there for half price food and drinks, watch the game there. Your neighborhood PTs are all over the place. Every corner there's one. There's a tavern. Go watch the game tonight. Should be a good one. My son left at 8 this morning to drive all the way to Tempe, Arizona, to finish up his last semester in college. I bet you he's listening now. I hope he's not watching me and he's listening because he's driving. So that's it. My son went out the door. My wife and I are really empty nesting again. And my son, the next time I will see him, probably be on a golf trip. I get some time coming off here. I got some time coming off after this season. You better believe it. There'll be a couple of Fridays that I'm in Tempe in Scottsdale playing golf with my son. But we are on to the Super Bowl. Just talked to Q Myers, came in, and we're talking about our plans to do some shows from Radio Row from New Orleans. Credentials are ready. We're ready to go for that. I think this is my 29th in a row, Radio Row, other than the COVID year. We don't count the COVID year because no one was allowed to go out and play. No one was allowed out, so we just don't count that. We cover that up and move on from that. But we're going to New Orleans, which I'm excited about. And I'm also excited about, that's not the right term here. I'm still concerned, but the fires, my wife and I watched more fire coverage than we did football this weekend because we've now had 2 friends who lost their homes completely and a bunch of friends that we know out there that are watching the fire not too far from their rooftops. Fires that weren't supposed to get there. The Pacific Palisades fire was not supposed to get potentially to the valley in Sherman Oaks and Van Nuys and that whole area, and it's closer than you think. And the winds are kicking up again. So the NFL moved the Vikings-Ram wild card game tonight to Glendale, Arizona, and the Cardinals sent the team 777, 2 of them, to pick up the Rams players, coaches, staffs, pets. Bravo to the Cardinals for everything they're doing here. I don't know why we didn't get the game here. Maybe I should know why. I don't know why that game isn't at Allegiant Stadium. I don't know if it has anything to do with the field, which is great at Allegiant Stadium, but maybe Arizona's was more ready. I don't know. I have no idea, but I wish that game was here because I would have loved to have been in the building tonight to watch that game. That would have been so cool to be watching that game in Vegas tonight on a Monday night, extending our weekend out here. But that game goes to Glendale. And it's an important game here because the Rams, it's a Rams home game, but they're going to lose the home game. But it looks like they're spending a lot of money to get their fans out there with bus charters and all of that. Yeah. And then the Viking fans are everywhere. So it's not going to be a home game for either team. It's a neutral site, but it's definitely going to be more of a Viking fan base, I believe, because Viking fans are everywhere. Skull travels well. They do. And they'll be there in a big way. And that'll be interesting. It's a big break for Minnesota, not having to play in L.A., even though L.A. doesn't have, I say the same thing about the Raiders, right? The Raiders have a much bigger and deeper fan base than the Rams and Chargers combined. But you could be at a Raider game and there's 50-50 fans. There are, because everybody wants to buy their tickets to a Raider game. Everybody wants to buy tickets to a Raider game, and they'll spend whatever it takes. They kind of don't do that at SoFi. But the LA fans, you see what the LA fans do when the Niners come to town or Philly? The whole place checks out. But this is the playoffs, and the playoffs are different. You're not supposed to sell your tickets if you're a fan in the playoffs to the opposing fan. Matter of fact, if you do that, and look, you might call this a cheap shot, and you might say, well, JT, the Raiders aren't going to the playoffs, so what are you to say? I would say this to anybody. You sell your tickets to a playoff game, you're pathetic. You are gutless. Especially if it goes to an opposing fan in your building in a playoff game, rip your colors off, throw them out, you're not a fan. And I have the right to say whatever I want about fandom because I'm a diehard fan on the radio. You watch these guys on TV in the morning, and some of them, they haven't been to a game in 4 years. Haven't been to a game in 4 years. Last night was my first Sunday night off in 24 weeks, and I love it. And I didn't do much. I wish I was on the radio, actually. I don't ever want to be off the radio. I want to be talking sports, especially this time of year. So as we dive in, Pete Carroll's in the building today. Ben Johnson's already been interviewed virtually. And then all weekend long, if you watch the pregame shows, CBS, NFL Network, Fox, all they did was talk about Tom Brady. Not calling the game, but what is Tom Brady's influence on the Las Vegas Raiders? And no one knows other than Mark, because Mark's the majority owner. So Mark knows the influence he's having. It's maybe less than you think. It might be more. We don't know. That's Mark, and Mark's not going to play that hand. He's friends with Brady. He sold a portion of the team to him, and Brady is very knowledgeable. It's the greatest quarterback of all time. Raiders need a quarterback. They need an offensive / head coach, maybe, or they need a defensive head coach taking over for Antonio Pierce and an offensive coordinator who's got to be great. And Tom Brady will play a big part of that. And that's the reporting you're hearing from everybody else. Vinny Bonsignor, whoever you're listening to, who might have more information than me, some who don't, some who do. We're all saying the same thing. What's the influence on Tom Brady? I'm at a bar, La Casa Cigars. Hey, Brick, what's going on with Brady? Excuse me? Like, what do you mean? I wasn't at dinner with Mark and Brady. I don't know. But I can just tell you that Brady's going to have an influence because he's supposed to. He's not a consultant. He's an owner. And when you own an investment, when you own your house, you own your business, you care a little bit more about it than just being an employee. It's nice to have good employees that care and do everything and want the business to succeed. That's who you should hire if you own a company. But Tom Brady's now an owner with this team. So his investment long-term has a lot to do with the success of the Las Vegas Raiders. And what's interesting about the investment of the Raiders is that the Raider investment has done so well, they're going to have documentaries about it and write books about it. No team has ever done this in 5 years. No team. And you can say, well, the Rams have done it. Well, they paid cash for it. Kroenke's richer. Yeah, other people are richer than Mark. I don't define Mark Davis by his bank account. He's a friend, a boss, a great guy. I don't defend any of my friends. When me and my 10 friends get together, we go skiing. We don't sit there at dinner and go, who has the most money? Start at 10 and get to 1. People don't do that in life when they know people. Mark's got plenty of money, and he seems to spend a lot of it on the team. And he's spending a lot of money on former coaches, and he's okay with it because he's trying to fix it when he hires people and it doesn't work out. He likes to quickly change instead of waiting. And I think that works because you Raider fans don't want to wait 5 minutes for a microwave to heat up. You're all screaming at your microwave when you put 5 in and it gets to 2, and you're screaming at the microwave, where is it? Where's my food? So I don't know how you want it because, as I said, last year was a trying time, not for this show, but for a lot of Raider fans because they so-called loved AP. They loved him. Oh, my God, they loved him. And then they were running him out of town. They were. And that's what happens. It's what can you do for me lately? Right. Now we get to press pause and watch how this is going to play out. And from what I've been saying, not reporting, I'm not a journalist, I'm a radio host. What I've been saying the whole time is that I think Ben Johnson's the front runner. I think that's the best possibly you can get if you want to check all the boxes: quarterback, offensive coordinator, head coach, culture, young guy, can grow with the job, doesn't have pressure to be great year one. That's a really good fit. But, he might want another job. He might want the Bears job. But with the Bears job, he might have to run out the executives above him, and the McCarthy family might want to do that. But what surfaced today was really big news. Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy are parting ways. That's a monster story because Jerry has waited and waited and waited, and now he's telling Mike McCarthy, you couldn't go last week to go on interviews, now you can go. What's that all about? I mean, people were ripping on the Raiders for having Antonio Pierce have a Monday press conference and firing him on Tuesday. Look what Jerry did with Mike McCarthy. He basically told him to come on in. You can't interview with anybody. I'm not going to tell you if you're coming back. He waits a week after Wild Card Weekend. And obviously, Jerry saw something over Wild Card Weekend that maybe he liked. And he relieved Mike McCarthy of his job. And you need to understand why that's important, everybody, because Mike McCarthy has a staff that he built. And those coaches now have wives who live in Arlington or Fort Worth, and their kids are in school. And they're doing this, and they're like going home, and they're going, what's going on? Now, fortunately, these coaches underneath the head coach make $600,000, $700,000, $1.5 million. They can handle it, but still, they're not multi-millionaires, these coaches. The head coaches are, and they got to pack up U-Hauls and move, maybe with Mike McCarthy to Jacksonville or somewhere else. They'll all be okay, but it does bring about a sense of drama. How about all the Raider coaches? I don't know all of them, but I see a lot of them on the team playing, or if I'm in the building, all the ones aren't coming back. They got the same issue. They got to tell the wives and kids and take their kids out of schools in Henderson or in Summerlin, and the kids are like doing well. No, we're leaving. We're going to another school. That happens. So when I look at this deal and what's going to happen here, it's very intriguing because as no one really knows what the fit is, because quite frankly, the fit here for the last 5 years, it all started when the emails broke on Gruden, which were not when he was an NFL employee. It was with ESPN. There's a bunch of emails with his buddies that were illegally lifted, illegally taken by an owner who's no longer here with us. He's out, kicked out from the Commanders, from a server, from their former president that had a lot of guys on the email. And Gruden was the only one that was cherry-picked and flagged, right? You ever have an email where you got 10 buddies on it and you're the only one who got flagged? Well, he was the coach of the Raiders, and he was going to be here a long time. He had a 10-year deal, I promise you, if Gruden never left, the Raiders would have been in the playoffs multiple times, like 2. I would think over the 5 years. I'm comfortable saying that, but other people don't agree. Once that happened, and the shoe dropped, Rich Bisaccia, Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce, and now we're here. And I think this is a very good and encouraging time. We've been through some rough waters. There's been a lot of things that have gone against the Raiders. Bad luck. Yeah, there's something called bad luck. They've had a lot of bad luck with injuries. I think the team has been prepared. God knows how many coaches did they have? Like 27 coaches or 24? Yeah. They had enough eyeballs on this team. The problem was the guys were too injured to compete and be successful. And now they're not going to tear down the roster. You can't tear down the roster with Max Crosby. You cannot tear down the roster with Max Crosby. And I don't want to move Max Crosby under any circumstance. And I don't think Max wants to be moved. So with all that being said, this has got to be a quick, not calling it rebuild. It's got to be a reload. It demands a coach, a GM, an offensive coordinator, if he's not an offensive coach, a quarterback, and a whole bunch of draft picks and a whole bunch of players that need to be re-signed, and a whole bunch of players, I don't think a whole bunch, but maybe 4 or 5, which is a lot, that have to come in from other teams via free agency. That's a lot of work to do. And then you're going to draft a whole bunch of guys, and then whoever this GM is has got to build the scouting department up again and find players that are undrafted who can come to the team. Woo! I just said all that. That's a lot of work that's going on in the building today. So let's let them go to work, and let's do our job. Got a bunch of guests today. Sam Munson will join us from the 33rd team. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, the franchise, in about 30 minutes. Mark Anderson, the great journalist from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, he'll have an opinion on this. What I think we should do right now is speculate. You like to speculate. During the season, I struggle speculating because people like to make it personal. They make fun of the coach or the owner, or they do something, and then we can't do what we can do. Act like adults out at the back bar and have a nice conversation. We got to deal with the kids coming from the children's table screaming and yelling, fire everybody. Well, everybody's been fired, guys. Yeah. Everybody's been fired in the positions that you were blanking and moaning about the most. So everybody's fired. So now we can go and build it up again. And who do you think should be the persons in charge? Now, the GM stuff gets interesting here because there's a lot of GMs around the league. There are a lot of GMs around the league and assistant GMs who are probably pretty good. So when it comes to that, you got to wonder if it's going to be the GM or assistant GM from Tampa Bay with an offensive coordinator from Tampa Bay. I don't know. Is it going to be Pete Carroll as vice president of football operation? He's the de facto president. We're having an inauguration. You know, the new president, he's not going to run the defense department and education. He might wipe one out, but he's going to have someone to do that. Pete Carroll would be kind of the guy on the football side. Sandra Douglas Morgan, business side, all of that, what she's doing. Everybody doing a great job in the building, making money, doing what they're doing, expanding the brand. But Pete Carroll comes in and he kind of just overlooks everything. And Pete's the coach. And Pete fixes everything that he sees that needs to be fixed quickly. Pete Carroll is perfect for that, according to Vinny Bonsignore, who broke that first. Vinny was on that first. But I've been on that a little bit. You know, not as a breaking news story, but I am fine if Pete Carroll ends up getting this job because I know what I'm going to get. Yeah. I'm going to get Pete walking out to the 50-yard line in warm-ups, throwing the football, likes to throw it like Harbaugh. Harbaugh and him, they throw it, they catch it. And then Pete's going to look at Andy Reid and go, oh, I beat him a bunch. And then he's going to look at Jim Harbaugh and go, oh, I've been beating that guy since college. He beat me once in college, but I beat his butt all the time. You know, and then he's going to look around and he's going to be fine in his skin. He's going to lead the team out of the tunnel, and Pete Carroll, with all of those wins, coaching in 2 Super Bowls, all of his years coaching, will be fine. You're not going to worry about problems with Pete Carroll when he comes out of the tunnel. He'll have the thing dialed in. Communication from the booth to him, everybody will be dialed in fine. Now you got to get the players, right? Pete Carroll can handle it. They have really good players. I was talking to a Gold Jacket about that, and they made the point to me. Man, don't forget, he had really good players. He did in Seattle. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, the Legion of Boom, edge rushers, Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson. I mean, he had everything on that team, and they were a bully. And that's what's interesting about the Raiders. The Raiders currently have a defense. They're Their DNA in this version of the Raiders and who's left is defense. Pete Carroll plugs into defense. And then the reports are Robert Saleh would come with him. If Robert Saleh came with him, they got a long time relationship. If you had Pete Carroll and Robert Saleh, you're fine. You're fine over there. Okay? Defensive practice on the second field, don't worry about it. You're pretty good. Just get the players again. But that leads you in the same problem here with the quarterback and what you have to do with the quarterback. And I like the quarterback conversation more so than the coach because I really don't know who the coach is going to be. It's Ben Johnson or Pete Carroll. But what Jerry Jones did today is he threw a monkey wrench in it. He said, Mike McCarthy's available. That guy wins a lot. Even when he doesn't go to the playoffs, he wins a lot. He'll win you 8 or 9 games. He's going to win games. Mike McCarthy's got a desk drawer. When he was out for the year, remember he was out for the year? He put together a PowerPoint presentation and brought it to Jerry Jones, knocked him off his desk, basically said, wow, Mike McCarthy spent a year studying the league in his home with other coaches talking about, well, no, we're coming back. This is what I want to do when we came back. And they were pretty good with Dak. What are they, 12-4? Yeah. That was recently. Dak with the injury and them losing. So do I think Mike McCarthy is going to be the coach here? No. But would I slam the door on it? No. If Pete Carroll takes the Bears job and Ben Johnson turns the Raiders down for whatever, Mike McCarthy might look pretty good. Yeah. Then you got Aaron Glenn who's out there with Detroit. So it's going to be an interesting time here. I think most of the people that I'm talking about with all of this kind of think it's Ben Johnson 1 and Pete Carroll 1A. And I agree with you. I think that's probably what's happening, but that's just guessing because no one knows. What's Brady's relationship with Ben Johnson? Ian Rappaport, some of the reports, well, he was on the phone with him for an hour. I would assume that Ben Johnson would be pretty impressed with Tom Brady on a phone call or a Zoom, I would think, right? And so Ben Johnson, did he look at the job a month ago and say, no chance I'm going to the Raiders if they have an opening, but now I like it because they don't have a GM and I can have more control? Absolutely. That's why these moves were made so drastically and quickly last week to clear everything out to make it more enticing for the new candidate or candidates, and everybody's reported that. So that's where we're at today. You had all weekend long to think about this, consume other content, and come back to me now. The show started 19 minutes ago. No one's on hold. Every Raider fan's got an opinion. So, again, I don't know what you do before I come in here. I feel like I got to rattle this place. I feel like an earthquake when I walk in here every day, waking this place up. So let's get this thing going because Q's got it rocking, and they have it rocking in the morning. And Rich does a nice job with a syndicated show, but this is more of a specific vibe we're talking about today. And then we'll get into all these other games. Oh, and the big news. I got big news. Big news. Justin Herbert and Bo Nix have been eliminated from postseason play. How about that, everybody? That means they did not win a playoff game. Does it matter? Yeah, it matters. It matters a lot. We're in the AFC West. We are competing against the dynasty in the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's a big deal. So Justin Herbert, who is great. I can't believe the knuckleheads on my Twitter. Oh, he's a bust. Justin Herbert is outstanding. He's 0-2 in the playoffs. Look at John Elway's record. Look at Dan Marino's record. Give him a break. You would kill to have Justin Herbert as the quarterback here. I would go walk to LA and bring him back here if he was going to be the quarterback here and he was available. He's not. He's a hell of a player. And Bo Nix looks like he's going to be a hell of a player. All right. So, look, I'm pretty hard on those guys because I rip those teams, but I know talent when I see it. But I was very, 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 very excited to see the Chargers lose and Denver lose. Four interceptions for Justin Herbert. Wow. He was running for his life. Yes, no Raider. He was running for his life. Well, they wanted to run it all year. And guess what? They had to pass the ball and they couldn't pass it. They were trying to run the ball all year and then they couldn't run it at all because they forgot how to pass. Yeah. And Lad McConkey's a good player, but they didn't have a lot of options. Believe me, the Chargers are going to trade for a number. T. Higgins to the Chargers would be scary with what they have already. Mm-hmm. They needed someone who was in the league a couple of years who can go make a play because the Chargers' offensive and defensive line is pretty good, really good. So the Chargers are out. Yes, very good. Then I'm watching the Denver-Buffalo game because I had buddies at the game. And halftime, I'm looking around going, oh, boy, they're in the game. They're in the game. They have a chance. If there's a fumble or a tip ball at the line, Denver can win this thing, and then they got blown out. They got blown out, which was good to see. The only negative thing is, Houston winning, which is a positive. They're going to go into Kansas City. No one thinks they can beat Kansas City. So Kansas City's coming off a bye week. Houston's coming in. I mean, Houston's tough. You saw the way they beat Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's pretty good. If they get after Mahomes the way they got after Herbert, they might have a chance. But I just think they have a small chance. And then the biggest story of all was Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Lost 5 in a row in the regular season, lost the playoff game. His name is out there as a tradable coach. If you can trade a first-round pick for Mike Tomlin, a lot of teams would do that. A lot of teams would give up their first-round pick, if it's a good one, and trade for Mike Tomlin. You just get Tomlin, you're good. They're trying to run him out of Pittsburgh because he hasn't won in a while. Mike McCarthy hasn't won in a while since Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. I was there for that. So do you want someone who's really hot and good like Ben Johnson, or do you want that chip, that ring already? All compelling conversations. Like to hear from you on that. But over the weekend, watching and consuming everything you did you have a different opinion on what the Raiders should do after you slept on it, had a couple of Modelo's, a couple of Tito's handmade vodkas, a couple of Remy Martins? Did you kick back and say to yourself, I went into the weekend thinking Ben Johnson, but I like Pete Carroll. Or I like Pete Carroll. I think for 2-3 years, if he has a mentor, if he's mentoring someone, the guy's going to take over. I like the Pete plan. What plan do you like, Raider Nation? You can't fill up bars and restaurants and trips around the world with these fans and not have opinions. We're the flagship station. Where do you want to go from here? And coming up, I want to get to some of the sound and the sound bites of these games. We have the national championship in college football, the Ohio State going up against Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman, the head coach of Notre Dame, might be in play for Pittsburgh for that job. Can you believe that? He's never coached in the NFL. And that's a big topic, too. Do you want to hire Lincoln Riley? I've been telling you, I like him a lot. Lincoln Riley hasn't been doing great for USC, but I like him a lot as a play caller. And then Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury's interesting to me because I think he's available. And believe me, as well as he's doing with Jaden Daniels, he'd run from D.C. to be the head coach of the Cowboys. And then there's Deion Sanders. Look at this. Deion Sanders, who everybody assumes if you get Deion, you get his kid. How's that going to work? Yeah. How do you pull that off? You want Deion in Dallas? How the hell are you going to get Shador? He's not coming to Dallas with that draft pick. I can promise you that. So what do we do there? 702-365-9200. My friend Reggie in North Las Vegas. How you been, Reg? What's going on?
Man, it's been a rough one, dog. I got excited hearing you on the radio because I hadn't been hearing for a while. I was out in Chicago, but shout out to all the Raider Nation for the love they gave and the prayers they gave. My father passed, and
yes.
It was an awesome time out in Chicago. It wasn't really sad. It was a lot of love and really just going back to my roots on how I even got into the Raiders. One of my uncles back in the 70s, he just loved the Raiders and Kenny King. And I just got into it because of him. And then I get to run into some of my nephews and nieces and all that they're Raider fans in Chicago. So that was awesome. But on this coaching thing, I'm trying not to get too caught up with it because it really don't matter in the end until they choose them. So me guessing who it might be and all of that. I do like Ben Johnson. Mm-hmm. I've always wondered what was going on with Eric Bieniemy. Mm-hmm. I think he interviews bad or something. I'm not sure, but why he hasn't became a head coach, I don't know. But Ben Johnson right now, in my mind, I think that's going to be a pretty good deal. And he's a young guy. We need somebody that's got some longevity. And the Deion Sanders thing, yeah, you tell me how that's going to work.
Well,
but JT, I just wanted to call in basically because I heard you, man. I hadn't had a chance to really talk to you and everything. I really appreciate what you do on the radio all this time that you've been doing it. And I love what 920 has been doing.
Thank you, Reggie. We appreciate you. You're at all our events. Thank you very much, Raider Reggie. Sits right next to me in season tickets. not too far from Fabian there. It's nice to see fans that go to the games and then call the show. So we appreciate that. All right. Let me get out of here. Again, we're brought to you. Resorts World tonight, Monday Night Football. That's our Monday Night Football hub. I'm on the radio 7 to 10 on Mad Dog, but they know we're coming. And they like the crowds we brought to Resorts World this year. So at Resorts World, you get a bonus Monday Night Football game. It's a playoff game. You can go to Doghouse Saloon there. Go have a good time. There's so much happening at Resorts World. Everybody who goes there calls me back, especially people from out of town when they come in and say, hey, thanks for recommending Resorts World. I didn't know about it. I'm like, you didn't know about it? How could you miss it? Well, I didn't know they had this, that. You got to go see it. You got to go walk the property again and see all the changes they're making at Resorts World, proud partner of the show. Get some calls coming up here. Then we got Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, who's going to join us, and he's the franchise former voice of the Chargers. He gets very cranky at times with the Raiders. He doesn't like the Raiders. Why would I put him on? Because he's really good. He's a radio host, been doing this longer than me. We'll get his opinion on the hires that are out there and the rest of the postseason as we begin. Appreciate everybody on a Monday. Gorgeous day in Vegas. You got some sound to play what? Yep.
We're gonna have about 5. We got Hacksaw at 40, right?
Yeah, we might want to pick up. We might want to go and pay Paxo, and then we'll have the long break at the top.
We could
Do that. Yeah. Throw me a pen when you get a chance. Crush the like button, everybody. You can't have 284 and only 53 likes. 284 means 284 likes. Please hit that, please. Thank you. Yeah, I am cranky at times. Would you like me to come in here and be a soft pillow and just a softie and, vanilla radio? Or do you want to hear a little edge to you? That's what I do. See, I'm done apologizing. I'm better than most who do this. Better than this because I've been doing it longer and I know how to do it. And there's no co-host, just me. So certain days you're going to get a certain mood. You get a good mood coming in on a Monday because I had a good weekend. All right. Yeah, this is all stuff you can play in and out of the break.
I was actually gonna play the McCarthy cut talk. Jones cut talking about McCarthy from last week.
Let's just rejoin stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
you don't need to load right now, though.
Yeah, just when we get going.
No problem. Got a couple minutes.
Modelo is an official cerveza of the Las Vegas Raiders and the JT the Brick Show. Modelo Especial is a rich, full-flavored.
Oh, I went to the hockey game and they lost to the Rangers 2-1, and they lost to the Islanders 4-0. Bobby, that's pretty bad hockey.
Yeah, you know what? But they beat the Wild 4-1 last night. And that's a big win.
And Fleury didn't play.
Yep.
That's dirty that they didn't let him play in the game.
Well, he played last night. And he played the night
Yeah, he
before.
shouldn't have played the night before. He's a backup. They should have played him here.
I don't work for the Minnesota Wild. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I wanted Fleury to play here. Yeah.
Gave me a nice tribute, though.
Yeah, they did, huh?
Yeah. There you go. Okay, so we're not going to go break. We're going to go right into Hacksaw.
Yeah.
5 minutes. Got about a minute still. This could be Jerry Jones.
That's MRILV.com, promo code REC. Meet Barkley. When Barkley smells gas, he leaves fast. When Barkley hears hissing coming from the gas appliance, he leaves fast. When Barkley sees dirt or water shooting from the ground, he leaves fast. Barkley then calls 911 and Southwest Gas from a safe location.
Did that dog just grab a phone and dial 911?
Gas lines can be buried anywhere, so remember to call 911 and Southwest Gas.
Morning, Mom. Another day in Adminville. Okay.
You're tense. You have to send
Yeah, I gotta order lunch for the big client meeting. Great responsibility comes.
I just have to close all those tabs and open just one. Online order, do your whole plus tools, save time, save on budget, track expenses.
One tab to rule them all.
Surfer Bob, how the hell do you not like Hacksaw? The guy is an unbelievable guest. He's fantastic. Smarter than 90% of the knuckleheads you're listening to on the radio. Tell me when the Hacksaw segment is over. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, we got every lawyer on the radio but mine. God.
This is the next break.
Check us out at thevegaslawyers.com.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka, America's original craft vodka. Visit Tito'sVodka.com.
What is unique to you?
Well, that's what the whole team and I was in the whole coaches of the whole team. That's one of the best coaches that I think there is. He's a coach here. I thought that, and he's done absolutely nothing to diminish my opinion of him as a coach. I'm really impressed with the way the players identified or with it. They're inside with it. That's important. That's important because he's had some times when each one of those players individually as well as a team have not been fun times. He's been there in his way for them on an individual basis. He's been there in his way for them on a team basis.
It's Jerry Jones on Mike McCarthy. Jerry's hired a lot of coaches since Jimmy won 2 Super Bowls and Barry Switzer won 1, right? They've fired a lot of coaches since. It's been a long time since the Cowboys. They've been amazing. And they're trying to get right because the Cowboys have Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. They got good players, and they want to get it right here. JT, back with you as we continue on. Want to thank all of my friends who have joined us here over the last couple of weeks, jumped in, and especially Remy Martin. Locally and nationally, every accomplishment requires teamwork. It takes more than one person to win a championship, and it takes more than one person to create an exceptional cognac. Just like our local sports teams and the road to the Super Bowl, Remy Martin team up for excellence as we continue on. 702-365-9200 if you want to get through. Just me today, huh, Bobby? Just checking. Apparently, good. Just following up there. Let's talk about other teams because they're in the playoffs, and we can dive into that. I want to get to the interception, the pick 6, that went down to Justin Herbert. He was the reason that they lost the game. Houston was keeping their eyes all over Justin Herbert. So this pick 6 by Murray was a big point in the game because the Chargers thought they were in the game. They had timeouts. They had the ability to come back, get the passing game going, but they tried to turn it over to Herbert to carry the team after being a running team all year long, and it backfired.
Herbert in the gun. He sends McConkey in motion to the left side. Along the right hash, awaiting the shotgun snap. Justin Herbert creeping up toward the line, leaning in. Now backs up, leaning back on his left foot, gets the shotgun snap. Looks to the left, pumps and throws left side. Too tall, and it's intercepted. Picked off down the sideline. Eric Murray, he's going to take it for a Houston pick 6.
Westwood won on the call. So we're going to be dealing with Justin Herbert for a long time out here. And the Raiders have done a decent job dealing with him. All right, so again, the Raiders got swept this year. The Raiders got swept this year by Bo Nix. Swept by Bo Nix. And Justin Herbert, who I can see that, but, you like to split against Justin Herbert because he's good. Just because he's 0-2 in the playoffs and he's got a 60 quarterback rating doesn't mean he's trash. There's so many legendary Hall of Famers. Khalil Mack, after the game, was really struggling. He's like, really? We're talking about this guy? This guy's great. This guy's our leader. And I think the Chargers are going to be good with Justin Herbert, but if you get to the playoffs and you don't play well, man, you become a piñata. Everybody comes after you like you suck. The basement trolls come up in between mac and cheese and soup and tell their mom, he sucks. No, he doesn't. He's really good, Justin Herbert. So's Lamar Jackson every time he loses to Kansas City. He's really good. He's an MVP, but sometimes you have a bad game in a big spot. Speaking of Baltimore, they have Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry is now the complete game changer because if they need him to take over a game and Lamar is not in a great rhythm, Henry can do it.
1st and 10 from the Steeler 45. Lamar in the shotgun, 3 receivers to the right. Here's the snap. Jackson will hand it off to Henry. Up the middle, big hole. 30, 25, down to the 20, 15, 10-5. Touchdown Ravens. Derrick Henry's 2nd touchdown run of the night. bursting up the middle for 44, and the Ravens lead 27-7.
That was a blowout on Westwood 1. So the big storyline there nationally is why did Mike Tomlin's team, how'd they lose 6 in a row? 5 regular season and then a playoff game. How did that happen? Like, did they quit? I don't think so. They didn't quit. They were just out schemed. No, I thought they lost. Remember, they had that brutal schedule. They had to play Christmas. Then they had to play the Thursday, the Saturday. They did an experiment with the 4 teams, including Houston, that won and beat the Chargers. They had Pittsburgh and you had Baltimore and Cincinnati because of the TV show HBO Hard Knocks, the AFC North. They made them play so many games over so many days, and Pittsburgh couldn't handle it. And Russell Wilson, who I thought was a hell of a pickup, reminded everybody in Raider Nation Russell Wilson's available. Okay, that guy's good. He can stabilize a football team pretty quickly. He had him at 10-3. Little help from Justin Fields early, but that was Russell Wilson's team. He did a pretty good job with them. He's available. You can remember, he was available for $1 million, only for 1 year. Russell Wilson will not play for $1 million anymore because Denver's picking up his whole tab. But that was a pretty good season for him. And then we get to Josh Allen and his performance, the touchdowns that he threw in Buffalo as they started slow against Denver. And then the guy was probably going to win the MVP. Most people believe he's the front runner, Vegas odds to win it. He took over the game.
Allen fades back, steps into it, lobs it out, open, caught in the chest by Curtis Samuel, 30, bang it inside of the 20, 15, 10, slips out of a tackle, touchdown Buffalo, 55 yards, lob, catch, TD, it's 27-7.
All the sound courtesy of Westwood 1. And then one more game I want to get to, Philadelphia. Philadelphia didn't look very good on the stat sheet, but you got to give Nick Sirianni credit. He rested Saquon Barkley for the right reasons to have him ready. The guy gave up a 70-yard touchdown. He broke for a touchdown. He got down on his knee because he wanted the clock to run out, which was really sharp for him to do. I'm surprised he did that. But Philadelphia, Green Bay played poorly. They did not play well in this game. Josh Jacobs played well, but Green Bay is out as Philly wins.
2 receivers to the left. Hurts throws to his left for Goddard. Goddard takes it, spins. Goddard shoulders his way inside the 15. Stiff arms to the 10. Inside the 5. Touchdown, Eagles. That was all Dallas Goddard, 24 yards, and the Eagles are on top 16-3.
So I wanted to mention Josh Jacobs for a second. He had a brilliant year, fantastic year, unbelievable. I mean, he didn't have a good a year as Derrick Henry, was close, and Saquon Barkley, who could have broke the single-season rushing record. But Josh Jacobs, leaving Vegas to go to Green Bay, was smart for him. He played in bigger games. He had a great year. His brand is sky high there at Lambeau Field. But he didn't win a playoff game. He didn't win a playoff game. So he didn't. So if you don't win, if you don't get it done, you can move around from team to team. You want to win a championship. You want to get it done. It's important for you to get it done. Josh Jacobs went and left the Raiders to play in meaningful games. He played in a meaningful game. He did. He played in a very meaningful game, but they didn't win. So with all that being said, very interesting to see how this plays out. How this is going to play out for Josh Jacobs as he wanted to start his run in Green Bay, and Green Bay had nothing in that game. And they had injuries. Believe me, they had injuries. And Philadelphia, I thought, was ripe to be beat because Jalen Hurts hadn't played in a while. And I expected more from Green Bay. Remember last year, Green Bay went in and played excellent against Dallas and knocked Dallas out of the playoffs in Dallas, and they weren't able to do that this time around. So I'd be concerned about that with Green Bay going forward. A lot of people were crowning them and expecting them to go really high and take it to the next level. But overall, they weren't able to do that. So if you're a team that's one and done in the playoffs and you're out and you're one and done, you got a problem going forward because you didn't get there. You got there, but you didn't win. And then your team's going to want to find a way to get back there again. And that is hard to do. 702-365-9200. And then the game last night was just really impressive to see what's happening. So we tried to figure it out if Jaden Daniels would win. I thought Baker would win. I really did. I thought Baker Mayfield would win the game. He wasn't able to win the game. And that's what happened there. Baker, wow. I wish Baker was in Vegas. We lost out on a beautiful opportunity to get Baker Mayfield going on the other side, and we didn't get him. And Baker didn't win a playoff game, which was kind of surprising to me. Grimaldi's Pizza, the best I've ever had. Literally the best I've ever had. Home of the $50 gift card. We got one to give away this week. Maybe we'll do it to one of our YouTubers, the bricklayers who are all there for me every day. Most of the bricklayers don't have phones, though, Bobby. So we'll just talk to them during the chat. Coming up next, Grimaldi's. Aiden O'Connell's going nowhere, Kenny. He's under contract. There's other options.
Cool. I guess that's a JT one.
Fabian, I agree with you. I'd take the Chargers in Denver getting to the playoffs, but you get to the playoffs, you got to win.
Okay, how about we skip the highlight and go right to the music?
Yep. Yeah, I think the Ravens are good, are better than Buffalo, maybe, but I like Buffalo to win at home. What's that?
He leaves fast. When Barkley hears hissing coming from a gas appliance, he leaves fast. When Barkley sees dirt or water,
Those hockey tournaments over in Summerlin are right by my house. That's kind of where that's my neighborhood.
911. And Southwest Gas from a safe location.
Did that dog just grab a phone and dial 911?
Gas lines can be buried anywhere, so remember to call 911 and Southwest Gas.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by Local 872.
Your workforce solution.
JT back with you. Always a pleasure to talk to Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, former NFL play-by-play voice and one of the longest tenured and greatest sports talk hosts of my time. Lee, what is the reaction to Justin Herbert? 4 interceptions, and that's 2 playoff losses for him now.
Yeah, Happy New Year, JT. It's shockwaves. The quarterback of the Chargers played really poorly, but this was a team failure more than it was a Justin Herbert failure. I watched this thing real closely. I chart a lot of things. He threw 4 picks, yes. He took 4 sacks, took 11 hits, had 7 pressures, no running game. His offensive line that had 3 number 1 draft picks in it just failed miserably. He had people at his feet, people in his face, and they just never did a good job to help him with max protection, roll him out of the pocket, get him away from the pressure, let him find any rhythm at all. It was just a disaster. That was on the offensive side. And then obviously on the defensive side, GT, they had C.J. Stroud freaked out in the first half. Why they didn't go to blitz packages when they had the kid quarterback from Houston backpedaling, running for his life is beyond me. And then they started to make some plays, and then momentum shifted towards the Texans. And, of course, the second half, they just pounded the football. So it was a team failure, not so much a Justin Herbert failure, but the social media of the world is blasting the Chargers quarterback, I think, rather unfairly, because he's been great over the course of his 5 years. But this was a bad day at the office. But a lot of people in that office had bad days too, JT.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Herbert. I think he's got an unbelievable arm. He's one of the best I've seen live, period. And that he will be great going forward. I just thought the team, their balance in running the ball in the first year of the Harbaugh era, they really wanted to be balanced and run it. And when they needed to throw it, I just don't think Herbert was maybe as sharp or as loose as he even was under Stokely when he was throwing it all the time. Was that part of this, that when they had to go to the passing game, they really just had Lad McConkey, who's a rookie, and they got to get a number one wide receiver in there in the future?
Yeah, McConkey's brilliant. The other guys drop passes.
Yeah.
It's been a very inconsistent wide receiver core, GT. But, you know, the theory that Harbaugh changed the culture has got validity.
Mm-hmm.
But the theory that Greg Roman's a great coordinator, I have huge questions there, because they never did anything to help Herbert in the face of all this adversity in that game on Saturday. And during the course of the year, yeah, they ran the ball well early, but that was against substandard defenses. That was against Carolina. That was against the Raiders and some other bad teams. They didn't do anything running the football. Probably the last half of the season, had guys dinged up. Offensive line, I think, underachieved. You know, in Saturday's game, they averaged 2.8 yards per carry from their running backs. So I'm sorry, it's just not on Justin Herbert. It's just a wide variety of things that didn't work very well. And I think there's still an awful lot of rebuild that still has to be done with this Chargers organization, despite the arrival of Harbaugh and all the network guys saying this is great. Well, it's not great. You won, you know, JT, they won 11 games, credit to them, but they played one of the weakest schedules in the league. And their 7 losses, including the playoff setback, they got punched in the mouth by every one of those teams. I mean, they were not competitive at all in any of their 7 losses. So they got work to be done. It's kind of ugly out here in Southern California right now, aside from the horrors of the fires. It's kind of ugly as it relates to the Chargers, and now we have the Rams to follow.
Hacksaw's our guest. Hacksaw, what do you think about Bo Nix? They were in the game in Buffalo. Buffalo was just too good in the second half of the game, but what a turnaround. That draft pick really worked out well for Sean Payton. They got good, big receivers, and that defense on the back end with Patrick Surtain is something there. I give Denver a lot of credit for getting there. I didn't expect them to win, but they put up a fight in that first half against Buffalo.
They did. They got overwhelmed, though, at the end of the day. I mean, Buffalo wins every matchup that probably was on the field. But the kid quarterback, I thought, had a fabulous season. He doesn't panic. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's smart. He's athletic. He's got a gun for an arm. Peyton kind of hit the jackpot with this kid, and under his tutelage, Bo Nix grew a great deal. I think they finally, for the first time in a while, solved their wide receiver deficiency. I still think there's untapped talent there, led by Courtney Sutton. I think the next thing they have to evolve is what kind of power run game can they have? Can they be a little bit more consistent? Nobody talked about Denver's defense. They had 63 sacks during the course of the season and a ton of takeaways. That was a pretty good team. So I think for year one, Sean Payton is supposed to be a rebuild, build out. Then they're ahead of the power curve. Now they got to go get more players. But I like that quarterback, no doubt about it.
Go to the website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I have it in front of me. Every show I do, the best headlines in all of sports talk radio. What do you make of what the Raiders are trying to do now? Antonio Pierce, you knew Tom Telesco. They're out because they wanted to set it up. Brady's involvement and the ability to get a coach who might not want a GM there. It seems like it's Ben Johnson 1, Pete Carroll, who's in the building today, 1A. How do you think that's going to play out for Las Vegas?
Well, I think Ben Johnson's everybody's hot commodity. The problem is Ben Johnson's going to have an option maybe to go where there's a good quarterback, and you don't have a quarterback in Las Vegas, and that's a big issue. And by virtue of winning these games at the end of the season, you're going to have a tough time finding a quarterback in the draft. Now, it may well be that with all the money that they've got in their salary cap, they'll be able to rent a veteran out there. But they're so deficient in so many areas, JT. I mean, I will say this. Telesco left his office, unpacked, and moved out, and left 10 draft picks behind and $107 million cap space.
Mm-hmm.
So the next guy in is going to have resources and assets to work with. Just got to make them work. I happen to like Pete Carroll. I think that's veteran leadership. You put a good player personnel guy, a.k.a. general manager, in him, maybe John Spytek from Tampa Bay, who's got Brady's confidence. Maybe suddenly you hit the floor running with a good leader on the field and somebody that's had a good track record in helping fix Tampa Bay in Spytek. So I'd say Ben Johnson goes somewhere else because he's got the chance to go where there's a good quarterback, and the Raiders have enormous issues. You know, you and I talk a lot during the course of the calendar year, JT, and there was a chunk of time I thought, you guys are going to turn the corner. because what you got is at one point you had Josh Jacobs and you had Devontae Adams, and I like Jacoby Myers. And you kept getting draft picks, and I figured these number ones and number twos are going to start to pan out, and it kind of did. And then you had what I thought was a great acquisition of Christian Wilkins, but lady luck in the injuries just kind of wiped the team out. So I kind of think you're back to square one without a quarterback, and you got to have a quarterback in a quarterback's league.
Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, as we wrap it up, what do you make of Mike McCarthy now and Jerry and him parting ways, knowing he has a ring? He's won a lot of regular season games, a lot. Like Pete Carroll, he's banked in a lot of regular season wins and playoff wins. I like that Jacksonville roster, Hacksaw. I think that's a really good team to fix Trevor Lawrence with all the weapons they have on both sides of the ball. Where do you think Mike McCarthy ends up?
Well, the national media is of the opinion in Chicago. National media is of the opinion, maybe New Orleans, because Derek Carr is already there locked in. I tend to buy what you say as it relates to Trevor Lawrence, but I've never seen Trevor Lawrence really take the game by the throat and become the kind of fearful quarterback you have to be if you're going to be a winner. But they do have a lot of skill guys, and they were destroyed by injuries. That was just a debacle what happened to their defense in Jacksonville. And, spinning back to Dallas, this guy wins 12 games 3 years in a row. Now, granted, his playoff record wasn't good. I thought they would have gone a little bit farther with him, but Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones, and it's Jerry Jones' team, so he's going to do what Jerry Jones wants to do. It'll be fascinating to see who becomes the head coach there. I keep hearing Cliff Kingsbury because Dak is in play and Prescott is in place. So it's interesting the way this coaching carousel has started to really, really spin. McCarthy will have a job. I think it'll probably be a good job. It'll probably be a job where there's a quarterback in place. So maybe connecting your dots, Jacksonville, what might be a good location. Though I've not heard his name in Jacksonville yet. I've heard more Chicago and New Orleans than anything.
And you hearing anything on Tomlin? They're really upset in Pittsburgh. I mean, they just don't win. They don't win playoff games, but they win a lot of games. And when you hear of trading for a head coach, are you a fan of that? You give up a one, you get a guy like Tomlin. If Pittsburgh wants to move on, I can see Pittsburgh wanting to keep him, the Rooney family, but I could also see Pittsburgh saying, if someone wants to give us something for him, we're open for a trade.
Well, they indicated on Monday morning that this coach stays. I think what they really need to do is hit the reset button philosophically on player acquisitions. They need to move into this 21st century as it relates to wide open offenses, big play wide receivers, speed at running back, because their offense is really pedestrian. And in this modern day NFL, which is almost like a college game, JT, this is just a very, very different NFL that's being played now, and you need quarterbacks and you need wide guys and you need speed run backs, and they don't seem to have any of that at all. And I also think they've had a bad run with wide receivers who become divas. This whole junk started with Antonio Brown, and I sit there and I watch George Pickens, and I say, what a wasted asset. He's such a problem during the course of games and all the junk off the field. They've got to hit the reset button in terms of their players and their players' dedication to the team. No doubt they spent a phenomenal amount of money on the defense, and the defense is good, but in modern-day NFL football, you got to be able to move the ball. They went to that playoff game. I think they're averaging 314 yards per game, and that was a struggle to get to 314 this year. So they need to rethink everything as it relates to, quote, player acquisitions to help Tomlin, but Tomlin is staying. That's what they announced this morning.
Lee, where do we get the podcast later on tonight? I have it, the website. Tell everybody else.
Website, I write on it every day. Check it first thing in the morning. You'll be the smartest person outside of the guy that writes all this stuff, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And just go to my YouTube channel. I do podcasts Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. based on the West Coast. It's always up there on the YouTube channel. Wide range of topics. We do sports talk, JT, you and I, the way it should be done. Yes. An awful lot of information.
Thank you, Lee. All the best. Appreciate it. There he is, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. I always say this about Lee. He had a big impact on my life as a sports talk host. Everybody says Jim Rome, Jim Rome, Jim Rome. No, of course, I won Jim Rome's first ever Smack Off. I was listening to Lee before Jim because his style, I build my monologue the way Lee does. It's no nonsense. It's 20 minutes. 3 times an hour. That's what we control. We control everybody, but I got guests. We have callers. We mix stuff in, but I control the whole show. But I love having the 20-minute monologue. I learned that from that guy and his website every day. If I miss something at night, I log on LeeHacksawHamilton.com. It's up there and it's ready to go. So we're buried the next hour. We got Sam Munson from the 33rd team as we'll go around the league coming up. And we have Mark Anderson, who's going to join us later from the AP. He's a real journalist, Bobby. When I see him in the press box, I know I'm talking to a real journalist. You know what I mean? Someone who deserves to be in a press box. He actually has something I could read and look at and talk to and build content around. So I love having him on. I'm going to get in the chat here and chat it up on YouTube at JT the Brick YT. We got 316 people in there. Not bad. So let's go talk to them and come back after Bobby has a dart and we're ready to go.
Join Mark Patrick seminars and stop smoking now without cravings.
Yep. Okay. All right. I got a few extra minutes here, everybody. The smack off is when you made fun of the Raiders. Yeah, I didn't think it was lightly hearted. I was a caller back then. Yeah, that's why we got him, 100%. Yeah, I don't judge anything I said on the radio in 1995 to 2025. It's 2025 now, so that's 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I won the smack off. Yeah. Yeah, we like Lee. He's got good information. Yeah, Fabian, we should get more Rich Gannon, but as you know, because you're pretty embedded here, everybody takes a break now. Everybody's like, Rich does national stuff. I'm lucky too. Q's doing his ESPN stuff. We kind of I give the guests like Gannon a break. I hope I'm on the edge of my seat waiting for Eric Allen to get in the Hall of Fame. I'm hoping that Eric Allen vote comes up here in a couple of days. All right, texting my producer for later tonight.
No appointment necessary. 24-hour service. Zip Zap Auto at Cheyenne and North Durango Drive and online at zipzapauto.com.
JT for Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. We have something for everyone to enjoy.
What I think is going to be our coach, JT. Now you said TJ, so I'm not going to answer that 73. You got my name wrong. I made JT very easily, so it was a typo, but I don't know. I'd like to see either Ben Johnson or Pete Carroll. I'd be great with either one of them. So if either one of those get it, I'll be really happy. If one doesn't get it, the other guy does. Whatever. We'll see what happens. But I'm not sitting here going, it's got to be this guy. Oh my God, it's got to be this guy. I'm not that guy. Whoever they tell me the coach is, hopefully I'll interview him and we'll have a good time. I have not had a chat with Brady. I have not. Nope. But for those who are asking me if I have a preferential favorite, I don't. What do you guys like in this game tonight? I just think the Rams have been doing a lot with the Fires, and that does matter. And Minnesota's just flying to Glendale. They could have flew to Vegas or LA. It doesn't matter. I think Minnesota's a far better team, much better team than the Rams. That's why I think they'll win. And it's a neutral site. So, yeah. Yeah, Megan, I believe the same thing. Vikings close. Yeah, I do think that Spytek's an option for GM. I think he's got a real relationship with Brady over the years. Yes, I do. Yeah, they're showing the Rams showing up at the Cardinals facility for practice.
You know, a lot of lawyers who advertise here don't even live here. If they say Nevada, they're not from around here. If they think our capital is Las Vegas, they're not from around here. I'm Richard Harris, and I am from Nevada. I grew up here. I went to school here. I raised my family here. No one knows Nevada like we do. If you've been injured, call me. Richard Harris.
Rams could upset, but it's close. Yeah, I think it's going to be close. You like that name, huh, Big D? That does sound good. Should we bring Gruden back? I always think Coach Gruden's an option. You know, but if you're asking me, should we, while I'm on video, and they might hire Ben Johnson, do you think I'm going to say that? No. But you know how I feel about Coach Gruden. I never have to explain what I think about Coach Gruden. Yeah. Ram fans taking the bus to Glendale. Well, the problem with keeping Kansas City out of the Super Bowl becomes the issue of which team's going to be beat up after they win. If you see Buffalo win and it's a brawl and they got a guy who's out for the game, it's a big deal. I want Buffalo to win. I'm rooting for Buffalo over Baltimore, 100%. But Lamar's individual superhero abilities are probably good enough to beat Mahomes. We'll see. How about letting Houston beat the Chiefs and we can really enjoy it? All right. Hour number 2.
Hey, Sam, it's Bobby with JT and Brett. How you doing? Good. Got something JT give me 1 minute. Got him.
Yep.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Philly Cadillac Performance Studio. Your silver and black home to sound off for over 20 years.
Over to the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
All right, hour 2, we're out of the gate here. Thanks for joining us. JT in Vegas. Everybody with the fires in Los Angeles. And we're thinking of all the firefighters who are out there really trying to protect, serve, and do a great job. We'll get back to that in a little bit. It's always a pleasure every Monday to be joined by Sam Munson from the 33rd team. Sam, let's begin with your analysis on the breaking news with Mike McCarthy out in Dallas. Why didn't Jerry let him interview a week ago to hold them back till now and then to part ways?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think Dallas looks good, whatever the explanation is, and it's worth kind of pointing out there were conflicting reports. I think Tom Pelissero initially said that they were talking contract extension and they couldn't agree on the duration of the contract, the amount that they would want to bring him back for. But Adam Schefter and the statement from Jerry Jones came out later and said they never got as far as talking about a contract extension. I mean, if that's true, I think that they should have been letting him interview elsewhere. I understand he's in a contract for this sort of final week, but if you've decided you're moving on from him, the right thing to do is to let the guy be in the coaching cycle as soon as you can. Let him, go somewhere else. If you genuinely wish him well and all those things that you put in the statement, then let him go talk to somebody else when his job is on the way out, even though he technically owes you another few days.
And very interesting to me because he's won a lot, and Mike Tomlin's won a lot, and he's lost. And I know you're privy to insiders and your analysis in Pittsburgh. What is your theory about these coaches who have been coaching for a long time? There's not many left. There's a lot of young coaches now, but the guys who've been around a while, they can run an organization. They can do a good job, but they just haven't won playoff games, and they want to retain jobs in the NFL.
Yeah, and sometimes, it's difficult because you're in this position where you're stuck in a kind of good, not great situation, and teams decide they need to move on. They want to go in a different direction and shoot for the great, shoot for the amazing team. And, Andy Reid was eventually run out in Philadelphia and obviously went on to all the great things that he's done in Kansas City. Does that mean that it would have happened if they kept him in Philadelphia, if they'd have finally got over the hump? I don't know. Not necessarily. Question is interesting because he's clearly able to get an extremely high baseline out of the talent that he has in that organization. I think he's exceptionally good at, man motivation, at sort of understanding the professionalism of an organization, getting everyone to buy in, and a lot of the things that you want a head coach to do. And also, even though he's lost, I think, 6 straight playoff games at this point, a lot of those have been against very, very high-level competition, and he hasn't had a quarterback for a lot of that period. He's had the dying days of Ben Roethlisberger's career, and then this revolving door of Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and Russell Wilson this season. And in the AFC, you're going up against MVPs, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen hasn't won an MVP yet, but is that kind of caliber. Same with Joe Burrow. So you have to kind of look at these losses and say, how many of those would we have expected him to win? And how many of them is just, that's the reality of this team right now from a talent point of view. I think you can construct an argument either way for Tomlin. There's definitely things you can point to, in-game management things, calls, and say, look, it's time we go in a different direction. But it's also, that's a very risky call to make, because I think the chances are you're taking a step backwards if you move on from a guy like Tomlin.
Sam Munson's our guest from the 33rd team. Jets, Raiders, Jacksonville, Buffalo, the Jets. As we look at some of the teams that are available with coaching vacancies, New Orleans, do you think Jacksonville with their roster probably has maybe the best opportunity? No state taxes for a coach, good roster, you can fix Trevor Lawrence? Or do you like what Tom Brady could do in Vegas as they cleared everything out, maybe for Ben Johnson to have more control and build it that way with Max Crosby, a couple good players there, and a lot of salary cap room that Tom Telesco left behind?
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders, you definitely get the benefit of being able to start from scratch with a new general manager and presumably somebody that they're going to try and create a combination, a tandem, a working partnership there. The problem with the Jags is you got to come in and you're with this incumbent GM, Trent Baalke, who somehow has survived the call again. And even if you're reporting to the owner directly, you're not reporting to the GM, it doesn't scream a well divided, a well kind of set up organization. The Raiders theoretically, they don't look great firing a GM after 1 year, but it's because they want that blank slate. It's because they want to start afresh with a combination that will work together and we're designed to work together from the ground up. So, I think the Jags' job is going to depend how much the head coach believes in Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. If you believe in Trevor Lawrence, it becomes a very attractive job right away because, he's already there. If you don't, I think there's a lot of red flags about that gig. And then the Raiders, it's just what combination they can put in place. They are, I think, starting from further behind. They don't have the quarterback yet, but you at least might be able to start from a blank slate and not have office politics already causing problems before you get in the building.
Do you believe any of these Deion rumors about him wanting to come back there? Because Dallas would be the fit, but you don't get Shador. I don't know how he comes back. He'd want to coach his son, but that's a college thing. You get to coach your son in high school. 1 in a million get it in college. You're not guaranteed that in the NFL. And that Dallas Cowboy job isn't open often. And when it is, it's a big job and it'd be a good fit and a good location for Deion. What do you think of him and what Dallas might be thinking in that combination with Jerry?
Yeah, it does feel like he's only really interested in coaching his kids as a plan. And while the rest of us might go, that's ridiculous, you can't do that. I mean, this is Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders has made a career out of doing whatever the hell he wants and generally succeeding at it. You can't play baseball at the same time as football. Well, Deion could. He could do it on the same day if he needed to. And he's taken his kids with him to multiple college places now. He's had success. It seems implausible, but it's Deion Sanders. He's got a relationship with ownership there in Dallas. I definitely wouldn't rule it out. I think it's unlikely for all the reasons you listed, but I definitely wouldn't say it's impossible.
Sam, wrapping this up, I wish Baker didn't fumble that snap and it ended that way for Tampa. I wanted it to go back and forth, let the best team win, but that turnover was super costly considering Jaden Daniels at the level he was playing with. And can you comment on how calm Jaden Daniels is in the shotgun and changing plays? I mean, I knew he was great at LSU in the Heisman, but the composure in a playoff game on the road is different. I don't recall anybody being that smooth their rookie year in a postseason game.
Yeah, he's been spectacular. The poise has been incredible. Even that late play, the short yardage play where they had to have it. Elijah Cansey was in the backfield 5 yards deep and was about to destroy that play. and Jaden Daniels just stiff arms him and doesn't let him make the tackle, and then outruns everybody to the first down marker. I mean, these are the plays that win and lose football games, and Daniels is making them all right now. And yeah, unfortunately, you're right. Such a critical play. They just gotten the stop, Tampa Bay defensive stop, get the ball back and with the lead and had a chance to try and take control of the game, and then just a basic glitch, just a basic timing problem, and suddenly the ball's on the ground and Bobby Wagner pounces on it, and all the momentum, all of the impetus goes back to Washington instead of Tampa Bay.
Sam, last one. We'll talk to you next Monday, but I got to get your opinion on Baltimore-Buffalo. Wow. I wish that was a Super Bowl, let alone an AFC championship game. We're going to see it in a divisional round. And someone's going to come out, most likely get Kansas City, but this is a epic heavyweight fight. I can't recall being excited for a matchup this early in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the games this weekend, the wild card weekend, weren't great, but the benefit of that is it means it looks like we're having a lot of very good teams moving on to the next round. Buffalo looked very good. Baltimore looked very good. Kansas City was looking very good before they rested everybody and obviously have the 1 seed. So, I mean, we might have 3 teams that are all capable of going to and maybe winning a Super Bowl from the AFC, which means we're going to get good matchups in the divisional round, let alone the championship game. And I'm with you. I'm really excited by that one. I think it's going to be a spectacular game, and then maybe another one following it in the championship game.
Check out the podcast, everything he does with Steve Palazzolo. It's fantastic. Go check it out. Check the mic at the 33rd team. Sam, enjoy the rest of the week. We'll talk to you next week.
Anytime. Take it easy.
Sam Munson joining us, and he'll be live, hopefully, with us at Radio Road down in New Orleans. So as we look at this coaching carousel as it is heating up today, everybody seems to like Ben Johnson that I'm talking to in our YouTube channel. They like him. I like him too. No one knows him. No one knows him. No one knows if he's going to be a great head coach or not. There is risk reward, but the ability. What I'm finding a lot of the national media are saying, like him, he's national, when he says, well, the Raider job's better because you get to break it down and start again. I don't want to do that. But I think that's a big part of reality. And at times, and I'm the first to admit, I work for the Raiders. I want the Raiders to win. I'm never going to get on the radio and say it's a rebuild. I'm not the guy to go get that from. You can go get that from someone, one of your other favorite podcasters. You're not getting it from me. But a lot of other people are talking about not a tear down, but the ability to get fresh eyeballs on the building and the culture and everything. So culture, we saw what Antonio Pierce did. The players love playing for him. That wasn't a problem. More people asked me during the year, how's the locker room? What do you think of the team? How they doing? They're fine. You saw the way the Raiders played. They played their ass off every game. They just weren't very good. Now they got to get a coach who comes in there and changes what it's going to look like on the field. As a season ticket holder, forget about the radio host for a minute. As a guy who pays my money to go sit in my seats, I want a better offense that is more on fire, electric, intense, and I want that. I want to know when I sit in my seat that I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want handoffs into the pile on 2nd and 8. I don't want to burn the clock down to under 3 seconds on the play clock all the time. Everybody who's been in that position seems to have done that. And I'm just sitting here telling you what I think would be right to maybe play faster, and I think what's happened when you don't have an elite team, when you don't have a great team. You have Brock Bowers, you had Devontae Adams, you got Jacoby Myers, whoever it is. I just want to see speed and explosiveness because that's Vegas. And it used to be the Raiders, right? The old Raiders was the vertical game. And they can't get the vertical game going with Jimmy Garoppolo. Couldn't get it going at all, right? Couldn't get it going with Gardner Minshew. No vertical game. Oh, we need a vertical game. So we need a quarterback. Wait till I unroll who I want a quarterback. You see that Aaron Rodgers now? The odds are he's going to Pittsburgh. If he can go to Pittsburgh, he can come to Vegas. If Aaron Rodgers wants to play, if he would like to play for 2 more years, because he's fine. He's not injured. He's healthy. Enigma, the documentary, he's ready to roll, and he looked good down the stretch. Remember how good Russell Wilson looked his final 4 or 5 games with Denver, and they threw him out? Same thing we're dealing with again with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers looked fine the last couple of games. The blowout in Buffalo was one thing. They were outmatched. Aaron Rodgers is going to go play somewhere. And Kirk Cousins is a hell of a leader, but Kirk Cousins looked like he lost a lot of his fastball. A lot of his fastball down the stretch. But he came off a pretty serious injury. They both had Achilles injuries. And then other than that, it's Sam Darnold who's going to play tonight. I don't know what we're going to see out of Sam Darnold tonight. It's a pretty important game. If he has a big game tonight, I mean really big, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns or 3, I'm going to come in here tomorrow and Raider Nation's going to be asking for him to be the quarterback. He's going to see it tonight. And after seeing it, he's available. Will Minnesota want him, or is there a possibility to trade for J.J. McCarthy, who I think is younger than Shador? Yeah. He's younger than Shador. And then Mike Vrabel was introduced today in New England. Good hire. He would have been a good hire here. If Mike Vrabel was the head coach in Vegas, that would have been fine with me. Good coach. Going to really focus New England to get back again. So that went down today. So take Vrabel off the list. So I haven't talked to you since Friday. It's been real quiet today. Not me. I've done a great job today. We're ripping. You see what we're doing today? We're ripping. We got to hear from some Raider fans. Okay, I'm calling out Raider fans, which I often do in July. But I'm calling them out now because we are the toast of the coaching carousel. I want to hear from some Raider fans. Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll, or other. Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll, or other. If you got the other guy, let me know. If I don't see him, let me know who could that be. I don't want your analysis on the GM. We don't know these assistant GMs in Tampa and in Detroit. We know nothing about them other than if they come, they're going to be young and work with the coach who wants them. So that's where we stand right now. 702-365-9200 as we're brought to you by the Black Hole. Black Hole is 365 year-round. Mark Jones has built the Black Hole to be global. You can become a member for $60 for your life. Go to theblackhole.com and check out everything the Black Hole's doing in the off-season. As I said, there really is never an off-season if you're a member of the Black Hole.
Previously on
That is it, my
Roughness.
friends. You're going to shut down the machine on a very good day today. Appreciate that. If there's any breaking news, I will turn this on again. We'll turn the machine on. Or we'll wait for tomorrow. 4 to 7 tonight. Oh, no, 7 to 10 tonight. I got booted backwards. Got kicked in the ass backwards. So that'll be 7 to 10 on Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight if you have Sirius XM. Thank you to the bricklayers. You're unbelievable. Thank you.